You said your company couldn't get to money when you were a founder of a company before. I'm interested in just how that is brought to the table and what you're working with these companies, because a lot of times people are like, follow this process, right? And you do all this paperwork, or you do all that stuff, and at the end of the day, it doesn't actually lead to money. And it sounds like that was the problem that you did. Where's the correlation of those two things, so that this thing that was such a challenge for you and a challenge for a lot of businesses can actually see success?
So, so not to dwell on my prior experience, which was, the school of hard knocks, but it is for everyone in the technology or the development business. You learn from experience, but it really turned out that the company that we ended up concluding a deal with was not the one that I was out there pitching to, and it was someone sort of interim. It was an organization who had the customers that I was out there pitching to. So and when I look back at it, and when we started talking, it made so much more sense to everyone for them to absorb our capability to then go out to the broader aviation community. And I see that in the same sense as many of our companies now, is they may be out there pitching to the municipalities, and in many cases that makes sense. But in some other ways, it makes sense to pitch to the architectural and engineering companies that already have contracts with the municipalities, that then maybe it expands their capabilities to make them more attractive. But in the end, it still gets paying customers for the technology. So that's part of the assistance that we give the companies if they're not sure, or if they think their best way of making a lot of money and attracting investment is to go through the municipal procurement cycle, which can be very slow and burdensome for a small company. Then organizations like 757 Accelerate or ICAP or these types of organizations can help them think through, well, maybe there's another group of people that I need to partner with or form a strategic alliance with.
Just to piggyback that real quick, that can be for investors, your founders, so many other things as well. And so that mindset, don't just go after the thing that might make sense or could be making sense. I think so many people are just like, oh, I'll work with that person because he has a skill set that I want, or he has the check that I want, where it's like, can they really move the needle the way that you need it to? So I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, I think that, right now, this is such a time where the market is totally coming towards you. Climate it's a big thing right now. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. I think I just heard earlier this week that $1 billion of venture money is now going into climate. How has that affected you? Because truly the market's coming towards you. Are you picking up a lot of steam right now? Are you still in the early stages of that? How has that gone for you?
So it's a good question. A couple of things is what we're seeing this in a couple of areas. One of the things, and this sort of was in our plan, but the money that comes to the Commonwealth through there's a multi-state program out there called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and it's a way of raising money from coal-fired power plants. It's a carbon offset, and it's real money. And within the Commonwealth of Virginia, $228 million has been raised through this RGGI fund and put in an account in Richmond. Half of that goes to the Community Flood Preparedness Fund, which is a Virginia fund that funds municipalities to do resilience work. That could be coastline protection. It could be any number of things, but focused on resilience to types of efforts. And our goal, that money doesn't come to us, but our goal is to help the companies that we've funded get in the pathway for that funding, to help communities get money from the attract money from the flood preparedness fund, and then have these new ideas that can make the dollars go further. And we've been able to do that in a couple of cases, and we want to do more of that as we go along. So the money's not coming to us, just to be clear, but we're helping direct the companies to the municipalities who can then get that funding, and it gets the bigger projects. That's one way. The other way is we're building a network of investors nationally and globally who we can help our companies get ready to go out to them to seek their next investment. Already, of our companies, 6 of them have raised as partly due to us, but I would not say that it's all of the entire reason is because they're in our program, but because of the work that they've done with Rise, they've raised over $32 million in additional investment. So there's money out there. There's money that people are willing to put into this type of work. As you say it, we want to do more of that, and we want to do it by demonstrating. We demonstrate here, and then help them get to both other cities, because we're trying to build a city network for our companies and investors. So we're trying to help them along the way there.
Well, I'm sure that our boy JCal is listening to the show. So if Jason Calacanis, guest 100, they recently, him and his co-host Molly Wood, they just initiated their climate syndicate. And so every Sunday, they release their podcast. Molly does an interview with called This Week in Climate Startups. Really fascinating stuff. So I'm eager to be part of that climate syndicate. But the challenge that they're facing right now is there's a lot more money than there are companies to fund. So here you've worked with 30 different companies. I totally intend to clip this part of the show and send it over to Jason and Molly, because this is, and I was telling Zack before when we were trying to coordinate getting you on the show, that this is a real hidden gem, not only in Virginia, but throughout the United States. And like I said, the market's really, really coming towards you. And I think that you're really well positioned for a lot of successes.
We welcome, call me. My email address is around there, is on there somewhere. So yeah, we're open. We are not just trying to do our own little fiefdom here. We are open to spreading the joy, spreading the wealth. That's a measure of our success. So we're very interested in that.
With that challenge in mind, and there not being a lot of companies to pick from or to invest in, I mean, is there a reason? Is it just because people historically haven't wanted to work on climate type of thing? Like, is there a reason there?
So a couple of things is what we found is our first go around in the challenge was a bit of an uphill climb. We got some good companies. We also got a lot of very, very, very early stage ideas. But as we've built our brand, if you will, of the challenge, more and more companies are coming out. Now they're all at different stages. Some are ready to go. Some are folks who have already run a couple of businesses and they're off and running. But some are not. Some are focused on the technology. They've got great ideas, but they need some help just to get to the next stage, if in fact that's what they want to do. Or if they want to just stay in R&D, that's fine. We're not going to try and convince them otherwise. They've got to want to do it. So it's a number of different things. And really, the fact of it is, for a small company to raise $5-10 million or $20 million really changes the company, and it changes the work environment. It changes a whole number of things, and not everyone is in the right frame of mind to do that. And so, you know, it's a little bit of everything. But I think, as you know, if we can get the word out, that we start to get more and more companies and help some of those in the situation like I was in some years ago, what would it take to really, get this thing to take off and move ahead? Then I think every little bit helps. And there's enough savvy investors out there to know how to get into all of this. And so
is that to say that those some of these individuals are good at their craft, but are not necessarily the business side of things, and so you need to have that.
And so some of them, our judges look at them and say, you need a CEO. And sometimes the CEO at the time says, no, I'm the CEO. And so that's a different conversation. So, it's not a way that everyone wants to go. I mean, everyone wants to be Mark Zuckerberg, but that's a real hard pathway,
Doesn't he have people run the company differently though? I mean, didn't Justin Timberlake take it over for a little bit?
Well, I think that the other aspect of it too is when you have you have Chris Sacca, who is arguably one of the best angel investors ever, between him and Jason. But Chris, he retired, and he's recently come out of retirement, and he now has lower carbon capital that he has committed himself to un-F the planet. I think, and now Jason working with climate startups with Molly. So now you have these people that have helped grown hundreds and hundreds of companies, created dozens and dozens of unicorns. So now they can work with these companies, teach them the fundamentals that they need. Yeah. They have the network, they have the resources to really make some successful things.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, I think Stripe, it was announced yesterday that they just committed, Stripe as a credit card processing company, they just committed $100 million towards carbon capture. So, there's a lot of players really starting to jump into this game right now. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so we definitely want to be a part of that whole process. And one of the things that we noticed was we ran a challenge. One of the things we can do with our challenge is we try not to look for a specific solution, but sometimes we want a specific solution. And so we run a more focused challenge. It's a slightly different structure, but same idea. And we always noticed, and as soon as I started working with Kyle Spencer at the City of His Own's office some years ago, even before Rise, there was always a problem down here of at high tide events, maybe wind-driven tide events and heavy rain events, the sort of thing you get between March and November down in our area here. And the flooding starts to not look like the traditional elevation-based flood maps that everyone has. And the flooding is, especially with the heavy rainfalls, you don't know where the flooding is going to be. And if you're trying to get home from work or to work or whatever, it can be a really confusing and in some cases very dangerous time to be out there trying to navigate from A to B. So one of the concepts that we worked up with Kyle was this idea of tying in real-time flooding information, both from rain and tide and wind, in with a route guidance app for drivers like Waze. And we ran this. That's what the solution is that we wanted. We wanted to help drivers be guided around flooding. And so we ran this challenge and put it out there. And we partnered with Waze, and we partnered with a number of other organizations and local organizations, the ports, Centara, CHKD, ODU, etc. And we found a solution. And the thing went live last November within the city of Norfolk. And right now, folks that pull up Waze and are driving around the city of Norfolk will have real-time flooding information on their app. So that was a way that we could we want a solution to this problem. We didn't tell people how to do it, but we knew what we wanted. And we got that. And that's the first time Waze has been used in that way anywhere in the world. And we've had really good conversations and a lot of good attention on this local area. A, as it being a great test bed, because the city really had to help us out with a lot of stuff. And B, we can try new things, and we're trying to help the local community adapt to flooding. So our next challenge, we want to extend on that and try and address the big issues that affect us here and nationally and globally. And our next challenge is focused. It's not quite so sexy, but it's a big problem. We're focused on reducing flood insurance premiums and claims by 50%. Because right now it's very expensive, although that some changes to the National Flood Insurance Program are trying to alleviate the difficulties. But for the low to moderate income folks, flood insurance is expensive. And then on the other side, the number of claims and the amounts of the claims are driving the National Flood Insurance Program coffers into the ground. They were basically over $20 billion in debt recently due to a number of different major events, but also just this sort of continual claims. Drive the number of claims down and drive the amount. So we're putting that out there. We're working with the insurance industry, and we want to bring the ideas here and do a demo program here. We're putting 500,000 up, and we're trying to raise more money to do that. But we're going to address the problem here. And we're bringing in groups from outside to come up with it. I don't know what the solutions are. I can sort of think of a few, and I don't want to say them because if you do that, that's all you get. But I mean, there's a lot that can be done. And we're focused on it. We're going to launch that in the next month or two. And that one's going to run through the end of next year.